Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, and also a best-selling author. Every single day, I have the opportunity to help others unlock the potential and guide them to succeed. Today, I have a very amazing guest. I'm very excited to have him here. I met him a few years ago, saw him speak at a conference, and he really spoke to me. When I was really young, I loved competing in track and field. I love running the hurdles. I love watching Olympics and World Championships. But this guy I can't even compete with this guy. He's elite level. This guy is a 5-time Olympian. He's a world-class speaker, coach, and also a trainer. He has that mindset of a champion. He is focusing on fitness, wellness, health, and also building strong teams. Back in 1992, he was the Olympic gold medalist for the 110-meter hurdles, and at that time, he broke the Canadian drought of track and field gold of 64 years. He is the real deal. He is the real McKoy. He is Mr. Mark McKoy.
Wow. I don't think I've ever had an intro like that before in my life, Fong. So thank you so much. I'm going to take it off your site and use it.
I would love to have you use that intro. So for people who don't know you, can you talk to us about who you were, what you did to become an Olympian, and then how you transitioned from there to becoming a speaker and trainer?
Sure. It's pretty simple. I followed what I believe to be the hardest thing in life to find, and that's something you're really passionate about. I have kids. I have older kids now, and I ask them, they're in their early 30s now, and they're like, they still don't know what they want to do. That's the hardest part. If you find something you love to do in life, that just makes things much, much easier, because anything you excel at takes a lot of work. Everybody sees the Michael Jordans, the Wayne Gretzky's of the world, and they say, oh, they're so lucky, they're so talented. But no, they work really hard. And the only reason they work hard at it is because they love what they do. And I was the same. So I started running, excuse me, I was brought up in England, and I started running from the time I was 5 or 6 years old. And I loved training. I was doing workouts for myself, training plans for myself at like 10 years old. And I'd work out almost every day, and I'd have charts on my wall to see my progress. And it was just something that I just loved doing. And it doesn't matter, in England, rainy place, so it doesn't matter if it was rainy or sunny or cold. We trained every day. And I took that mentality and that attitude into my track career when I came to Canada when I was about 12 years old. I started hurdling when I was about 16. I gave up all other sports, soccer, cross country, things like that, and decided to focus on track. My first love was to be a sprinter. I wasn't fast enough, so I had to switch to hurdles, which is, less people do it, but it's a much more difficult event to train for. So as long as I was training and I was with people who had the same mindset, same interests, worked hard, it made me happy. So I just continued along that path. I went down the path of getting a scholarship to the States. And then from there, I went to Europe to train and did Olympics.
Wow, that's awesome. How would you compare your very first experience in the Olympics and then also comparing that to winning gold? Because those were two different Olympics.
Two different Olympics, two different levels, yeah. And a lot of learning in between. So my first Olympic team was 1980, which was boycotted. So that was very disappointing as an 18-year-old. Most people don't get a chance to do another Olympics. And most of those people my competitors at that time, never went back to compete again in the Olympics. So you think you had your one choice, your one chance, the 1% that actually make it there, and you're not going to get to go. So that was pretty devastating. I did actually, like you said, compete again in 84 was my first one I actually competed in. I was fourth, which was also devastating because fourth is like the worst position you ever want to finish. Just off the podium. It's nice to make the finals, of course, in the Olympics, and don't get me wrong, it's a great accomplishment. I was very proud of what I did, but boy, when you're 5/100ths of a second from a medal, it's again very, very devastating. So it was two devastating Olympics in a row. Mm-hmm. Then I went on to Seoul in '88, where I came 7th, which again was disappointing, but not as devastating as coming 4th. And so I waited 4 more years to go on to Barcelona, where I eventually won. But it was a learning journey. I think every Olympics, every year between the Olympics, I like to think of it as being in school. Like you never stop learning. There's always something to make you better. There's always something, a weakness you find. There's always, you're always pushing forward. You're always trying to find that little thing that makes you different or makes you stand out or makes you that little bit better than, the other million people who are vying for that one position.
Mm. Wow. When you're saying that you were fourth in Olympics, you're like, that's devastating. The best I've ever came to was fourth in the city. And then after that, I stopped doing hurdles after I crashed into a garbage can, and I was like, okay, I'm done. So,
yeah, well, I've smashed into a lot of garbage cans and a lot of hurdles in my life. Trust me.
Wow. When it comes to being on the world stage, how do you face that pressure? How do you go? Okay, I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go. I'm gonna push all these distractions out of my way, and I'm just gonna do what I need to do. How do you focus on that point?
Like anything else, it takes practice. Is that you hear? You fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. So the more you practice, the more confidence you have, the less distractions you'll see along the way, and the less nerves. Like you do want to be nervous. Don't get me wrong. When you're standing from the start line of an Olympic final, you're nervous. But there's good nerves and there's bad nerves. Mm-hmm. And the big difference between 84 and 88 and 92 was my preparedness. And because I searched the world, and you know the story, and we might go over some of this in this interview, but when I found the best coach and I found the best athlete in the world to train with, and you training with the number one hurdler in the world, it is every day in and day out, you can't top that. So when you go to a competition, you've been training for the last 3 years with the best in the world. So everybody else in that field is inferior to my training partner. Mm-hmm. So when I was standing on the start line of the Olympics, I thought, the worst I can do here is second, because we were so close. We were training so hard. We were neck and neck that, the whole 3 years we were training together. Mm-hmm. And I was like, only he could beat me. Nobody else here can beat you. That gives you confidence when you compete.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about training with some of the best people in the world, having the best coaches in the world in that field to get you to where you want to be. How do you compare that experience when you're surrounding yourself with these successful people with the transition into business and speaking?
From what I've gathered, it's the same. Like I always like to surround myself with the best people, and I always want to surround myself with people who are better than me. So finishing in my career and going into business, I was like a white belt in the martial arts. It's like starting all over. It doesn't matter how good I was in one thing. This is a brand new era for me. This is a brand new arena for me. And the best way to get back to the top or near the top is to surround yourself with people who've done it, who've been there, and who can mentor you, who can point you in the right direction. It's the same I did with athletics. It's the same I do in business. Just surround yourself with the best people you can, because you don't want to take financial advice from your broke neighbor.
That's very true, and unfortunately, a lot of people do that.
They do.
When you're on the world stage, you talk to a lot of different people, and you're surrounding yourself with lots of great athletes and great coaches, and you've talked about those relationships. So what do you think is the main 3 keys when you're building strong relationships?
I guess the main thing would be make sure that the people you're surrounding yourself are authentic. There's so many people out there who are experts. Mm-hmm. Experts in the field and everything. I mean, in the fitness industry, you go on, especially now, it drives me nuts with the social media, and there's so many people with 100,000 followers, and I'm like, but who are they? And people are following these people, and then I see what they're doing on there, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You're actually giving advice to people that's not even close to being correct. Mm-hmm. And so make sure that the people you research the people you surround yourself with, make sure they're authentic, they are experts, or and expertise is there's one thing to take a course or be around for even a few years. I've been with trainers who've been around for I've said, I've been in kinesiology and I've been doing it for 5 years. Well, I've been doing this 50 years. So there's a big difference between expert and expert, and
Yeah.
there's nothing like actually being there and doing it. So I said authentication is number one, making sure that the people that they have the credentials that of an expert. Second thing is their drive and dedication, I guess, because I have a saying, it's like I listen with my eyes, not with my ears. There's so many people again who talk, and again, I like to relate a lot of things to athletics and fitness in general, because in my opinion, health, especially in this day and age, people are realizing that health is the most important thing we own. You can have all the money in the world, as we've seen, and it's not going to save you if you're not healthy.
Right.
So when I look at people who are in the health and wellness field, number one, you got to show up on time. If you're not, one thing that I hate is when people are late for appointments, or so you tell me you want something, especially like in a health, you want to train, and you show up late. You don't want to train. You don't want it bad enough. If I'm 5 minutes early, I was a little bit late with you today, so I put my foot in my mouth. But if I'm 5 minutes early, I'm late.
Nice.
So when it comes to training and I'm with clients or athletes, I make sure that I'm always the first one there. So you got to make sure you surround yourself with people who are, again, not only authentic and know what they're talking about, but they're also reliable and they do what they say.
Right.
One of the best statements I've heard is, do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, the way you say you're going to do it. If you do that and people around you do that, those are the type of, that's the type of atmosphere to drive success. Third would be, what would the third be? Don't know. We might have to come back to this one. Can't think of a third one right off the top of my head.
I think you did a 1A, 1B, and then 2A, 2B. So you actually have 4 points there.
Okay, well, you're paying attention more than me. Okay, good.
It's all good. Now, when you're lining up at the start line, that adrenaline rush, that feeling of motivation, and I'm going to go out and do that. Compare that to going up on stage and speaking to thousands of people. Is there something that you do that, this is what I say to myself, this is what I listen to, this is how I get myself motivated to succeed?
No, I try. People have asked me again, how do you compare the feeling of standing on the Olympic? And there's a big difference. There's 3 levels to the Olympics. Actually, there's 4 levels to the Olympics, and they're all amazing. Like first, people say, to make it there is an amazing feat. Like you're an Olympian, top 1% on the planet of all athletes who want to try to do it. It's an amazing feat. Then there's making it to the final. That's a whole other level. People don't do that. Of all the athletes, thousands of athletes are there. Very few of them make it out of the first round, let alone the second and third rounds, to get through to the last 8 people on the planet. It's, it just takes that, 1%, and, I say it's the 0.1%. And then you have the people who make it on the podium, which is, again, I tried 3 times before I made it. So it's, again, another level above making it to the final. And then there's winning, which is, there's no comparison. I don't know that anything that I've felt, even of being on the start line of Olympic Games, that I've compared it to. I would have to say that I feel more confident being on a start line of an Olympics than I do on stage, because I did it for 16 years. I prepared for that one moment. I've done athletics my whole life. I breathe athletics. So when I was there, especially when it came to Barcelona, and I've been there so many times before, because I was so confident and I was so prepared, I wasn't as nervous. Yes, I say I was nervous, but nervous in a good way. In anticipation, like, oh, I can't wait because I'm ready. I can't wait. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't wait. I'm ready to go. Whereas when I'm on stage, I haven't been quite as polished. I just haven't done it as much. I've run over millions of hurdles, and I've been on, a couple hundred stages. So there's a big difference there. I think just, again, it's a matter of time. I said the 10,000 hour rule. You get up there and you do it enough. I probably feel the same on stage as I did at the start line. But still, at this point in my career, I'm much more comfortable standing up in front of 100,000 people in the Olympic Stadium in the final than I am in front of 100 people on a stage giving a speech.
Mm-hmm. Well, for somebody who's witnessed that experience, who's been through the crowds, the whole country watching you, what drives you now? What's your biggest motivation?
My biggest motivation right now is like I think one of the reasons I was so successful in athletics was because and this is really counterintuitive, is I never really liked school that much, but I love learning when it comes to the things that I love. So I stood above the rest of my competitors because I wasn't just training hard and lifting weights and running fast. I was learning. I love to learn about nutrition and how that impacts my body, about sleep, about recovery. And like, I was always trying to figure out what are the little things, because, you know, when you've got 8 people standing on the start line, there's not much different. When you got 8 best in the world, everybody trains hard, everybody's strong, everybody's fast. So you always have to try to figure out, okay, like, what can I do to separate myself from those 7 other guys?
Right.
So I was always learning, and now I like to impart what I've learned and still learn. Every day I get up. My routine now is not getting up and working out. It's getting up and I listen to podcasts and I read, and it's all about health and wellness, all the different aspects of it. And there's new stuff coming out every day. And that's why I actually like podcasts better than books, because by the time somebody's written a book, something new's come out. And what I believed yesterday is different from the actual studies and proof that's out there today. And that just fascinates me, again, especially when it has to do with health and wellness, because that's life. When health and wellness is gone, you're gone. So the things that I just love to learn, and that's why I was telling you earlier, I'm building a new website, which is more educational than it is, you know, here's a workout and here's what you eat, because that's what you see on all the health and wellness websites. Well, I think people would be more successful if they knew why, or what was missing, or why didn't it work, because, you know, as you probably know, 95% of diets don't work. 95% of exercise programs don't work. They might work for a while, but people yo-yo, they go up and down. It's not good for your health, and there's many, many reasons why that happens. And I approached athletics. Like, I used to look at people and say, like, if you're doing this, if you're going that way, I'm going that way, because most people don't win. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm doing that the same with health. It's like, this is what the beliefs are, but most people aren't healthy. Most people struggle with diets and losing weight and all that stuff. So I'm going this way, and I'm going to tell you the reasons why you're struggling is because you're following the crowd. You're a sheep. Don't be a sheep. Go this way, because you need to do something dramatically different if you want to succeed in being healthier.
Right. And when you look at your website right now, it's obvious you're an expert in health and wellness, because you look amazing in that website. Some of those photos are absolutely spectacular.
I appreciate it. That's like, it gets
people,
harder.
when you go onto the website, you know exactly what I mean. There's some photos, perfect.
No, I know. Like I told you, I was a little bit out of shape for those shots, but I'll get back in shape. Don't worry.
At the very beginning, you mentioned something about the very first Olympics. It was boycotted, so you kind of missed that opportunity to showcase your stuff. What do you say to all the athletes right now who are missing that moment because of what's going on in the world right now?
Well, see, again, so people look at this, and it's devastating, way more devastating than anything that's happened in our lives to this point, but they get to do it next year. When I was devastated in 1980, I had to wait 4 years. Right. It's almost 6,000 days.
Yeah. So
the athletes who are, you know, would make it this year would probably make it again next year. Mm-hmm. It's devastating. It's, you know, they don't get to go this year, but it's only a year in the big picture. Mm-hmm. Whereas most athletes, if you miss one in normal times, you don't get to go again. In 4 years, who knows what's going to happen in 4 years? Injuries, other up and comers. You know, there's so many factors in 4 years are going to happen. Whereas one, you know, it's 12 months. Suck it up.
Tough love, right?
Yeah, tough love. Suck it.
As a person who's a trainer and a coach for fitness, how have you readjusted or changed the way you coach right now? Because there's a lot of stuff that's from home and you can't go to the gym right now. How have you reinvented that strategy?
It's funny. That's so funny because I I saw a caption with Clint Eastwood on some social media, and he's sitting there on his porch by himself, and he goes, "You know, you have no friends when nothing's changed in your life." So nothing has really changed in my life.
Ah.
Really, no. And I'll tell you what. First of all, people are now, because of this, going, "Oh, I better get healthy." So they're starting to, they're starting to eat better. They're starting to work out. They're starting to, it's. I've done this my whole life. Nothing has changed. My routine hasn't changed. I don't eat any different. I don't, everything has been the same. When I train most of my athletes, I'm outside. I'm outside in the rain. I'm outside in the snow. We're running. I'm on, and now I do the same thing. I social distance. I keep, I save. We see police and bylaw officers there all the time, and I make sure I go up to them and I say, I just want to make sure, because we hear different stories all the time. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't, I'm like, we're running. We're staying 6 feet apart. Are we obeying the law? They're like, go for it. The good thing, get these kids out, because especially we get the physical health. What about the mental health? They need to get out. So most of my training is done outside anyway. So I'm in parks and on hills and on the street, and we keep our distances, and I'm doing the same workouts that I've always done. I don't spend a lot of time in the gym.
Well, I guess let's tweak that saying a little. When nothing's really changed, that means you're very, very prepared and you set yourself to succeed.
There you go. Like I said, you prepare to fail, you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you had an opportunity right now to speak to the entire world, what would your message be?
I'd say the same message I've been preaching for decades is your health is the number one thing. Don't wait for something like this to happen to try to get yourself, I heard another great, again, I spent a lot of time doing research, and someone said that they don't blame the virus, blame the host. Because there's viruses all over the place, whether it's the flu pandemic or SARS or MERS or whatever it is, there's a bunch of them coming at you. The stronger you are, the host, the immune system, our immune system, the healthier you are. Like, I was walking outside yesterday and I saw these two elderly ladies from actually Somalia. And I do this thing called grounding, where I walk around bare feet on the ground because we don't connect with the earth enough. And I learned this a long time ago. Tour de France riders do it. It's to help to recover after workouts. And so it was cold and it was raining, and they took their shoes off and they're walking in the grass. And I'm like, I had to go over and ask them. I'm like, why do you do that? And they said, because it's healing. It's healing our body. We've been doing it in our culture for centuries. And so I just go say, like, and she goes, well, why are you doing it? She was like, I've never seen anybody do that either. And I'm like, same thing, because of, the healing effect. And she goes, you know what? I don't feel sorry for any of these people who are dying. I know this sounds very, very harsh, but she says that I'm not scared. I'm healthy. I don't eat French fries and hamburgers, and, I take care of myself, and I come out here no matter what. I walk around barefoot. You have to be prepared for the next one, because there's another one coming, people. You think this is bad? There's another one coming. The world's not getting better, it's getting worse.
Right.
So just be prepared. Mm-hmm. Be prepared.
True. Well, before I let you go, I have a few quick questions for you to answer, one word kind of thing, just for fun and to get to know you a little bit more. Okay? If you had the opportunity to compete in Ninja Warrior, American Gladiator, or The Amazing Race, which one would you go to?
Ninja Warrior.
You could would you sign up now?
Not quite. I did a lot more training. I've seen those guys. Those guys are pretty.
This wasn't part of the question, but can you do the salmon run?
Can I do the what, sorry?
The salmon run, where you go up, vertical?
I wouldn't know.
Oh, I haven't tried it yet.
I'd have to try. I don't know. I'd have to try. A lot of those things they're a lot harder than they look. no matter how fit you are, unless you do them.
That's true. If you had the opportunity to do a movie about you, who would you get to casted to play you?
Ooh, that's a good one. You know what? I'd have to say Denzel Washington. He's just one of my favorite actors. He's a good actor.
Yep. Now you have Denzel at your home right now, and you're supposed to serve him your most famous dish. What do you prepare for him?
Oh, that is terrible. I live a very boring life when it comes to food. I have the same meals every day. Denzel wouldn't last long here. I intermittent fast, which means I only eat between 12 and 6, 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Usually have it would have to be one of my shakes, I would imagine, because I have salads and soups. Basically, that's every day. And I have a shake that has my shake has everything in it.
Well,
so my shake at lunchtime, this is my breakfast right now, because I don't eat breakfast at lunchtime, has more nutrients in it than most people have in a month.
Well, you're gonna serve them the gift of health then, right?
There you go. That's a very good way of putting it.
All right. Next one. If you could race against anybody on foot, they're alive at their peak, against your peak, who would you want to race against?
Usain. Who else? I told you, I always wanted to be a sprinter, and he's the fastest man ever.
Okay. Now the next one is Superman or the Flash?
Superman. We have this conversation with my kids all the time.
So you're prepared.
That was an easy one. Superman.
Okay. Last question. Last question I have is, what is success like? But before you answer that question, one of those items are on these cards. So pick a number between 1 and 5.
3.
1, 2, 3. So what is success like? Success is like a campfire. So how is success like a campfire?
Okay. So I don't like camping, but I used to take my kids a long time ago. They are hard to start. You're out there in the wilderness. It's a long time to start going, but once they go, they burn bright.
Very well said. Thank you very much. If anybody wants to get in touch with you with your training, your coaching, what you do, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Just you can email me at mark@markmckoy.com, or just go on my website, which is half finished. It'll get there by people. I'm not very technical, at markmckoy.com.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much. And for everybody, this is Mark McKoy. Thank you very much for being here. It's been a pleasure having you share your stories and your advice. It's just been great having you.
Great to see you again, Fong, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, we'll do. For everybody else, this is the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to unlock your peak potential. I'll see you later.